Hello, welcome. Today, let's talk about some basic terminology in accounting. We'll talk about the accounting equation and then also go through an example of how the accounting equation can be affected by the different pieces and changes to those pieces. So, first, let's talk through a few of these terms. So, the first one we have is assets, and these are items or resources a company owns or controls. Next is liabilities, and this is what a company owes or the debts of the company that must be paid back. Then we have equity, which is the amount of the company assets that belong to the owners of that company. Revenue is what a business earns when they sell goods or provide services, depending on what the business model is of the company. Expenses are cost of doing business for a company. These typically have to be paid back by a specific period of time, so it could be every month, every quarter, every year. Dividends, which are amounts from profits distributed to the owners. And then lastly, we have a shareholder or a stockholder, and these are owners of a company or a corporation. So, what is the accounting equation? The accounting equation is the cornerstone of everything that we do in accounting. And this equation will always be present at any given time. All the accounting equation is, it simply says that assets are equal to liabilities plus stockholders' equity. So whatever we have in assets, say there's $100 of assets, we must also have $100 on the other side of the equal sign. So it should be $50 in liabilities and $50 in stockholders' equity. Whatever combination of the two, that gets us to 100 so that both sides of the equal sign will balance. We can look at the liabilities and stockholders' equity side of the equation as who has claims to the assets, which are on the left side of the equation. So let's look at an example. So we have on January the 1st, 2021, ABC Company with assets of $100,000 and liabilities of $40,000. During the year, ABC Company had assets increasing by $50,000, liabilities decreasing by $10,000, and stockholders' equity increasing by $60,000. And the question wants us to first figure out what the accounting equation is on January 1st, 2021, and then we need to figure out what the accounting equation is on December 31st, 2021. So I've already written my accounting equation down at the bottom, and then I've put in a line for us to figure out what January 1st accounting equation is and also what the December 31st accounting equation is. So first, on January 1st, we note from the problem that the company has assets of $100,000. We also are told that the company has liabilities of $40,000. However, we didn't get an amount for stockholders' equity. If we know that assets are equal to liabilities plus stockholders' equity, then we can fill in blank for stockholders' equity. Right now we have $100,000 of assets on the left side of the equation and $40,000 of liabilities on the right side of the equation. So there is an imbalance. So in order to make this balance, we need to say that we have $60,000 of stockholders' equity. Now we have $100,000 in assets, which is equal to $40,000 in liabilities and $60,000 of stockholders' equity. So our accounting equation is in balance. Next, we're told that there were some changes throughout the year. So let's account for the changes. So we see that ABC Company assets increased by $50,000. So we'll show a positive $50,000. Then we have liabilities decreasing by $10,000. So negative $10,000 here. And as you'll note, in accounting, we always show negative numbers with parentheses, so just a note there. And then lastly, we see that stockholders' equity increased by $60,000, so we'll show a positive number. Now all we need to do is figure out the total for December 31st, which is taking the January 1st balance of assets, in this case, plus the change gives us our total. So we had $100,000 on January 1. Assets increased by $50,000 during the year. So now we have $150,000 at the end of the year. So if we do the same for liability and stockholders' equity, we see that we now have $30,000 in liability since we started with $40,000, but we decreased by 10 throughout the year. And then lastly, stockholders' equity started at 60, and then we added 60 more, so now we're left with 120. So now we have $150,000 of assets on the left side, $30,000 in liabilities on the right side, and $120,000 of stockholders' equity on the right side. So $150,000 on both sides. Therefore, our accounting equation is in balance.